Do you ever wonder, why do I always seem to give so much more than I get? All I want is to be appreciated and loved. Is that asking too much? Why do all the jerks get the hot girls while I get stuck in the friend zone? When will it ever be my turn? If this sounds like you, you're in the right place. Welcome to The Nice Guy Show. This is the podcast that asks the question, how do I break free from the nice guy syndrome so I never have to come in last again? Now here are your hosts, Faisal Khokhar and Chuck Chapman.
Welcome to another exciting episode of The Nice Guy Show. I'm Dr. Ari Graff. I'm leading the show today, and I've got my co-hosts here, Faisal Khokhar and Chuck Chapman. We're taking another dive deep into the dating world to find out why nice guys often suck at dating and end up in the dreaded friend zone. Are you tired of swiping right without a single match or stuck in endless conversations with no real connection? Do you wonder when your dating luck will change? Well, we've got the answers you've been searching for. Here's a few things that we talked about in part one. If you haven't checked it out, there are some great insights and tips. Faisal talked about how nice guys often exude a feminine energy that fails to ignite the sparks of chemistry with many women. He talked about how the fear of rejection and the desire to play it safe can hinder nice guys from taking the courageous actions necessary to succeed in the dating world. Love that. Chuck talked about mindset, emphasizing how approaching dating with a scarcity mentality can lead to disappointment. He also talked about the topic of being easily hurt and how it can hold nice guys back from forming meaningful connections. I talked about the issue of neediness, of which I am an expert, shedding light on how it can push potential partners away. I talked about my personal experiences and the challenges I faced in maintaining healthy boundaries. So get ready to transform your dating life today and break free from the nice guy cycle as we explore even more critical insights. Let's start with Faisal today. You are our resident dating expert. So what is yet another way that nice guys get in their own way with dating?
Ari, I just want to say fantastic intro. Just what the guys listening to this need as well. So we went through some critical nice guy issues in the part one. So let's have a look at the other two parts. So one of the things that nice guys really struggle with, and I see this in myself and I see this in a lot of the guys, is being a perfectionist. Nice guys want to be perfect before they leave the house. They want to know the best pickup lines. They want to know the best conversation starters, how to have the best conversations, how to have all the elements perfected before they leave the house. And this is one of the things that holds nice guys back. Holds a lot of nice guys getting out there is because their mentality to make sure that they get it right before they leave the house.
Well, you get it perfect.
Well, thank
How
you.
do you do it?
Well, that's only because I tell you the perfect ones. Well, the thing is, I don't get it perfect. There's a really awesome quote. A master was once a disaster because I made so many mistakes, right? Have you guys made a lot of mistakes? And you thought, well, now. So what it is I get to a place now where it's a tipping point. I still make a lot of mistakes. I mean, how many times do you see a professional basketball player, missing the shot? How many times do you see a Formula One driver, going off the tracks? You always see sports athletes who are at top of their game still make mistakes. And that's a lot of nice guys get this wrong. We think that we have to get it right. We have to be perfect forever, and it has to be always smooth and certain all the way.
So mistakes can be sexy. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it depends on the mistake, right? Yeah, I mean, if you can be completely goof up a date because you made a maybe schoolboy mistake. I'm trying to think of some of the mistakes that guys do make up. Maybe they went too quickly. That's a mistake that a lot of guys make, or a lot of nice guys don't make the the sexual move or something to let her know that he's interested in her, where he ends up being in the friend zone, or he tells a joke, or she tells a joke and he laughs way too hard. I mean, there are some mistakes that there's no comeback to.
I think there's a mistake of guys often, especially on like first dates, second dates, that kind of thing, where they have this idea of like this romantic thing of like what you're supposed to do. For example, I'm supposed to bring flowers and chocolates, or and they show up at the doorstep with big bouquet of flowers, and that literally brings the trust with her down, because she's like, you don't know me. You're just doing what you think you're supposed to do in order to impress me. You're not giving me this gift because you actually know me and like me. You're just trying to get me to like you. And so those are the kind of mistakes I think we can make when we're perfectionists of, oh, I'm supposed to do it this way. I'll do it A plus B. I'm going to get C. And it just takes all of the attraction out in the first couple of seconds.
Yeah.
It makes me think of something Dr. Glover talked about not giving more than you're getting, and don't approach an unapproachable woman. That you shouldn't overgive. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, I can see that. So what's an unapproachable woman? Has she got like a shield? I mean, other guys call it the bitch shield. How do we know an unapproachable woman? Does she have like a pit bull dog with her? Yeah, don't talk to her.
Walk through open doors. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, there are some women that will have a natural defense mechanism, because, I mean, if she's attractive and she's being hit on all the time, she's probably exhausted of that. I've talked to a lot of female friends of mine who are, extremely hot, and they say, look, we just get exhausted by it. We have guys always creeping them out because they just stare at her and they're not actually making the move. And this is what they find creepy. If you like me, come up to me, start a conversation, but start a conversation, and this is the important thing, in a more confident way. When he's sheepish, hesitant, nervous, I think one girl said, hesitant men make her creep out. Nervous men creep her out. Because I suppose if he's nervous, it gets her nervous system, to contagious, right? So it gets her nervous system to be contagious, and it gets her nervous system all worked up, and then she starts feeling unsafe.
So you got to shoot your shot, pretty much.
You got to shoot your shot.
Yeah, just be careful what you're shooting there.
All right, I'm going to give my next one, which is that nice guys jump into a relationship quickly if it gets sexual. And this was a mistake that I made. The first time I ever talked to Dr. Glover, he counseled me about this. This was in our men's group. And I told him that I had just started dating a woman who looked like Rihanna, and I was just obsessed with her. I mean, I was thinking about her. I was ruminating about her, and I just wanted to see her as much as possible. So we had we had 2 dates that first week. We were texting a lot, and he was like, slow down. This is typical nice guy stuff. You get physical quickly. If someone who's very attractive is interested in you, you get into a relationship just because you can, and not necessarily because you know the person. So this is why he really advises nice guys to slow down. Actually, slow down to get to know someone, and that way you can actually get to know someone efficiently, is by slowing down. But once you start having sleepovers, it turns into a relationship, or it feels like a relationship quickly, and you don't even know the difference about whether you're in a relationship or not. So that was a big take home I got from working with him.
That's a really good one. I think that I certainly was guilty of that. Ari, you and I, well, Faisal, you as well. We've all been married before, and and been in long-term relationships, and for me, when I got out of my marriage, like I was used to being in a marriage. And so when I would date, I would treat the relationship like right off, like, oh, we're married, kind of like the whole commitment, and you need to sleep over and we need to share everything. And I think that's part of the whole going fast thing. Part of it is we're terrified that she's going to go away. So we're like, come on, come here. We're trying to get her to commit to us as much as possible. But I think the other thing is we're also used to being into, especially guys that are starting over and have been married, divorced, and starting over. We're used to being in a long-term relationship. And so we will treat a early relationship as if it is the long-term relationship. And that's when I got burnt.
That's exactly right. And we'll make the same mistakes with that next person too.
Yeah.
It's our autopilot.
I love that example. I really like that example because if you look at a lot of the nice guy syndrome is, guys with attachment issues and what I call the emotional fracture. The thing that you'll notice is they're always love bombing and sex bombing. It's like intense straight away. And then the intensity, what happens is maybe about a few weeks later, it just all dies down. I mean, for some months, it just completely dies down. And then they're actually witnessing what the actual relationship is without those chemical rushes. And, I think, I'm guilty of it. I've done it before, love bombing, sex bombing. It's like intense and fireworks. And then, several weeks later, nothing.
So what's your next one, Faisal?
All right. This is big. Oh, yeah, we haven't done Chuck. God, you neglected him, Ari.
Faisal's my favorite.
We already knew that.
Chuck, go ahead. I actually thought we had given Chuck a chance.
No, it's just I was talking so much that you guys thought I had already gone. So tussle and tension is something that nice guys often get wrong. So women need tension in order to feel connected, and nice guys hate tension. So we will try to kill the tension as quickly as possible so that we can get comfortable. And when we do that, we inadvertently kill the attraction and the attachment. So if you think about women, and again, big generalization here, but the shows that they watch, the Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Real Housewives, Bachelor, those kind of things, they're all really high drama, high tension TV shows, right? So there's something in the feminine that likes that. And part of it is her need to test for safety. And when I'm feeling this tension, I am going to feel this sense of like, I need to kill the tension. If we're not creating tension in the relationship, and Robert talks a lot about this in his positive emotional tension course, if we're not creating positive tension, she will create negative tension. And if she's creating negative tension and I try to kill the tension, then what's going to happen is I'm also killing the attraction and the attachment. So what I really need to do is to learn to lean into the tension, and to do that by tussling. So I have a dog, and he's a little Chihuahua, and he loves to play tug of war. If I have something in my hand, he'll come over and he'll start grabbing on it, and he's pulling and he's pulling and he's pulling. And he doesn't really want the thing that I have in my hand. What he wants is that tussle. If I let go of that thing that I have, he'll just kind of sit there and it'll just kind of like, and he's trying to get me to play. And that's what the feminine does. Robert Glover said that children and animals are oftentimes have a lot of feminine energy to them. So this idea of my pup coming up to me and he's like, "Hey, play," and we do this tug of war. He's having a great time. He's feeling, that sense of connection with me. But as soon as I let go of that, he's like, "Oh, Chuck, come play with me." So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So instead of seeing these things,
how would you do that on a date? How would you create that tussle?
I think it's kind of, so
you should take your dog for a date. Take your dog on a date. That's so cute. Can I smoke him?
Usually bring a rope. I usually bring a rope, and I'm like, "Here, take this," and
I usually wait on the ropes.
Wait on the ropes. Yeah, Yeah. But no, I think what we do is that moment you start to sense yourself sort of like going, oh, I didn't like that. Instead, to step into it and be playful with it. You know, um, that's something like I do this with my wife still. You know, she'll say something to me, and it'll be like just a little bit kind of a sarcastic or even a little cutting, and instead of getting buttoned, I'll just be like, get over here. I'm gonna slap you on the ass for that. It's like, come over here, bend over my lap. Maybe you wouldn't do that on a first date, but essentially, it's just kind of like, instead of dropping into lower state, stay up in that higher state of playfulness, and just be like, "Oh yeah, you're talking to me like that? Okay." So just it's really more of a leaning into the tension and being playful. That's what tussle is. When I'm playing with my dog, we're tussling, right? It's not a real fight. Neither one of us is angry with each other, but we're playing. So maybe play fighting is kind of that thing.
Yeah.
Rough
It's that,
house.
it's that teasing, isn't it?
It's the teasing,
like
yeah.
it's a playful, the teasing, and that teasing kind of builds up the tension, because sometimes you're teasing, they don't always know if like what's the hidden meaning behind it. So, for example, I would say some of the things that really does build up tension, and you're so correct. That tension is so vital for chemistry. Without tension, uh, it's like having food, right? If you've got bland food, no salt, no herbs, nothing in it, it's like that's what nice guys are. The bad boys are guys that women really get excited about. They're like chocolate. They got full, rich, smooth, flavorsome, and that's what dates really lack. One of the great ways to build tension is boundaries. And this is something a lot of guys think, because they've gone through the pickup route, I've got to do, always a teasing, all of these, what I call superficial stuff.
Yeah.
But when you have boundaries and principles and they're activated and you enforce them, women hardly ever come across men who have really strict boundaries and principles, right? So it's like a shock to them, and they're thinking, wow, this is not only attractive, but it makes me feel safe, and it makes me feel like really seen here. So, for example, I have a 10 p.m. boundary. If I'm talking to a girl, and then it's getting, we're getting heated on the text messages, I would just say to her, look, listen, we need to call this off now. It's 10 p.m. My rule is no phone after 10 p.m. And she's like, oh, come on. She's doing everything she can to keep me on the phone, to keep that momentum going. But most guys will cave in and say, oh, okay, and we'll just carry on with the texting because it's hot and they're getting the sexual needs kind of met there. But when you say, no, 10 p.m. is 10 p.m., again, she wouldn't come across a lot of guys who will stick to that. And then I've had women who got really angry with that. And she's like, oh, you're so controlling. You're so fussy about this. But I'm saying, hey, this is my health. This is where I keep my welfare in order. And this is non-negotiable. And you cannot use sex to manipulate me or cave me on this one. So boundaries is a great way to build that tussle.
Such great advice. Yeah. What's another one, Faisal? What's next on your list?
All right. So the next one on my list is lack of experience. So we can learn so many principles about attraction, dating, intimacy, sex, but if you've got no experience under your belt, then you are really going to struggle. And this is what a lot of guys are hoping is, if I watch endless YouTube videos, if I get going a lot of courses, I read books and get a lot of training, I can compensate for that by not having experience, which is not true. All you've done is you've loaded your data up and you've got no experience. That's like someone saying, you know what, I'm going to fly a plane, all on YouTube, I'm going to learn everything. Would you go on that plane if the pilot said, I've just had all my experience on YouTube and read books? Of course you wouldn't. You wouldn't go to a doctor who says, I've never performed surgery, I did it all online, and here I am, right? So just like any sports athlete, you wouldn't go and become a swimmer if you've never ever dipped your foot into the water. I think you get my point. So lack of experience is where a lot of guys fall short. And what happens is, and here's something I've noticed: men who have lack of experience have lack of options. And when they have lack of options, they become desperate. And when they become desperate, they will settle, and they'll settle with anybody with problems, and they'll overlook the red flags. And when they overlook the red flags, they're going to get into dysfunction relationships. And then this cycle, this loop will just get worse and worse and worse. See, I told you I can't get girls. I told you I'm very horrible at meeting women. I told you I'm not funny enough. I'm not charismatic enough. I'm not confident enough. The problem is you cannot become confident. You cannot become confident until you've got experience. And you got to make a lot of mistakes. And this is the first point I was making about is perfectionism. You cannot start perfecting your craft, getting good at your craft without experience. So get experience, get out there.
You're bringing up so many great points there. I mean, most people probably don't view dating as a skill set that they need to master. I don't think so. But it's really just a whole range of skills, and it's things that you have to develop, like inner strength. That's what you're talking
Correct.
about.
Yeah.
And you're totally right, because these are crucial to actually, if you want to, find a long-term partner, you need to develop these skills in order to make the right choice, or
Absolutely.
even be in the position to get a great mate. So these are underrated skills.
We need volume. A lot of guys need volume and experience, and they lack that. From volume, from the experience comes, quality. So you got to go through a lot of quantity. A lot of guys going about, maybe us, like on average clients that I speak to are going about 4 or 5 conscious dates. I don't mean just there are a lot of guys that I have coached, guys who've slept around a lot, been on a lot of dates, but they did it unconsciously. They just did it automatically. They didn't think about what they were doing and what results they were getting, and reflected afterwards. So usually guys experience about 4 or 5 dates a year, which is abysmal. This is dangerous.
What should they be aiming for?
Ideally, you want to have at least 1 date a week minimum. So what I did was, after my divorce, is I was hopeless in the self-confidence around social situations and women. So what I did was I made a commitment to myself for 2 years. For 2 years, 4 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, I would go out and interact with people. I'd go to meetups, go to networking events, seminars, whatever I could find. It wasn't the lack of resources, it was a lack of resourcefulness. So a lot of guys lack this. So there's plenty of events out there. You just have to Google them. Just go on the internet and you'll find them. Go to parties, go to so many charity events, galleries, openings, and there's so many places you can go to. So a minimum of 1 day a week is minimum, I would say, to get really competent. So you stop making the mistakes that you made in the past. And social events, go out 2-3 times a week.
So I want to get Chuck in here, but yeah. I think approaching dating as an athlete is what we're getting at. Train like an athlete, and you will have superior results. Chuck, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, when I'm working with the guy, guys will come and they'll say, I want to get into a relationship. I want a girlfriend. And I'm like, you need to get good at talking to women first. You don't even know how to ask somebody out on a date. Like, get dates, and I'll have them put, for the first couple of months, we're not even to think about a relationship. I just want you to go out and date and date and date. And whether that's finding dates on apps or finding dates, more organically out in the world, but go for the ask, early on. A lot of guys will, they'll be on an app and they'll like, go in this sort of back and forth. And I think it's like, just, if it feels like there's a little chemistry in there, just say, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. That is going to give you more practice going out for that cup of coffee than texting back and forth for, endless hours is going to get you. So I will often tell guys, like, it's practice. There's a beautiful scene in I think it's Batman Begins, where he's in, Bruce Wayne is in this Asian prison, and there's this big guy, and he's like, I'm the devil, and Bruce Wayne goes, you're not the devil, you're practice. It's kind of like approaching it like that. Like, these women are coming, I'm your wife, you're not my wife, you're practice. Just kind of bringing that idea of like, I need to get a lot of practice in on this. So, if you want to date beautiful women, great, date a lot of beautiful women. But so many of us will date one woman, and because she meets the criteria of A, she's pretty, B, she'll sleep with me, therefore, this must be the relationship of a lifetime. And I think that's the problem a lot of nice guys fall into, is they get that idea of like, okay, I've got the girl, I just got to keep her, rather than just getting really, really good at dating and approaching and talking.
Well, it's always about, like the end result as opposed to enjoying the experience of dating. That's something that I've worked on, is actually just try to appreciate each date as something in itself. Feel gratitude that a pretty woman wanted to spend some time with me, and not expect more than that. It might lead to more, it might not. But I'm going to treat it as a learning experience, and something valuable in itself.
That's a really good point, Ari just made there, because a lot of guys think, I have to get the perfect person in front of me before I go on a date. And what they do is they miss out on some really crucial dates. They miss out on some really crucial experiences. So, I would say to guys, look, just go out, date, and then get the experience. Because when you do find that someone that you really want to invest more time with, you've done all the hard work, you've built the muscle, you've done the training work.
And real quickly, along with that, one of the things I did was I dated women who I wouldn't typically date. Okay. Because, whether it's someone who's maybe not your type, or, different culture or something like that, but there's a lot less attachment when you're focusing on practicing dating. Okay, I don't have to go after the super hot girl. I'm just going to go out with this girl and have a conversation with her and practice my skills of having conversations and dating. I think that also sort of like levels the field, so you're not quite as anxious.
Yeah.
So,
I got one more. So mine is, nice guys don't have a full life outside of dating. So why is that something important? Is that's part of what's going to attract people to you, is that you have a full life. Dr. Glover always talks about baking your cake, and that the woman will be the icing on the cake, as opposed to the woman being your cake. So if you don't have other stuff going on in your life, other friendships, other relationships, a career you're passionate about, hobbies, what is a woman going to be attracted to about you? And are you going to approach that woman in a needier way, because she's going to be your everything? She's going to be the one thing that you focus on. So I think this is a mistake that I made after I split from my ex-wife. Was, I went right into dating because I was hurting, and that was something that felt good. And I don't have any regret about that, but I didn't think after we split, like, oh, you know what? I really need to go find more male friends. Like, that's what's been missing in my life. When in fact, it was missing in my life. And like, I need to develop other hobbies, or I need to really think about what I want to be doing in my work life, which also wasn't feeling good. No, I just chose to focus on dating and women because that's what felt good at the time. When in fact, building all those other parts of my life make me more attractive to women. So I think that this is a key point for nice guys. Uh, can you guys relate to that?
Absolutely. I always tell guys, if you guys are like, if you want a unicorn, you got to be a unicorn. If you want an interesting woman, you got to be interesting. And that like attracts like. And if you are going to um, have a full life, then the beautiful thing is the like you said, the woman is icing on the cake. What Ari, what did you do to kind of create more of an interesting life for yourself, or what are you doing?
I got involved in men's groups for one. I mean, it really just it crystallized for me that I'm spending all this time focusing on getting dates or being
Mhm.
having a girlfriend. But I was missing more friendships, like single men. Like I have some great male friends, but they're all married. So, you know, having those single guy friends that could relate to where I'm at in life, and I didn't have it, and so it took some time for that to crystallize to me, and just being in men's groups and connecting with men, seeing that there were other things that I needed to learn, realizing, you know, I don't really have a lot of hobbies aside from
Mhm.
going to the gym. What else do I like? Questions that can feel uncomfortable, but now I ask them more and more, and I value myself enough to make sure I pay attention to these other aspects of my life. So that's the growth that I've had. I'm not letting dating be the main focus. It is an important focus, but it's not necessarily the focus anymore.
I love your points about having a full and richer life, because I felt like this when I came out the relationship, when I came out the divorce. I was thinking, well, there was nothing, there was no substance to my life, and I gave everything to the relationship. It was all about the relationship. It was all about the kids, and there was nothing about me, Faisal. What built me, what did I want to enrich my life with? So a lot of guys did, like, there's a quietness, there's an echo of like emptiness, and then they realize they've not kept in touch with their friends. They have a very poor or no social circle. They find themselves really lonely, no great male bond friends that they have, and a really poor social circle life. And women notice this because they see that if a guy's got nothing else going in his life, he'll leech onto me. He'll leech onto my friendships, my network, my hobbies, my style. And that, what I notice is that becomes quite suffocating because he's needy and he'll suffocate her. Because in moments of relationships, we will need some time apart so we can do our own stuff. And when we do our own stuff, it gives the relationship breathing space. It gives the relationship time. It gives us space for attraction to grow. Attraction grows in space when we're with each other all the time. And I find myself doing this as well. We would spend all our time together, do everything as much as we can together. And that just created that place where there was no attraction anymore. And we were like more like roommates than we were actually like lovers. So I can really see the value in like creating your own life, doing things, having your own adventures. And she gets excited about that. I hear a lot of moms say this. There's a lot of moms I know, through my network, moms and dads I know. I wish he would go out with his friends. I wish he
Right.
would have his own circle, do something. I wish he'd leave the house and do something. And she feels like, I want to go out, see my friends, but I feel guilty. He just sits at home, does nothing. He doesn't take the initiative to go and create his friendship, his social life.
Chuck, did you go through something similar?
Uh, After my divorce, dating,
Yeah.
jumping in. Oh yeah.
Well, not developing a full life.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I think I had. Well, my life was my family, and my wife and my daughter and, my job, my career and all that. And when that went away, suddenly it felt like my life went away. And I thought the answer was, well, what I need then is to reconstruct that as quickly as possible. So first woman that showed me any kind of attention, I jumped into a relationship with her, and it ended up being a hurtful experience all the way around. Instead of like working on myself and developing myself, I felt like the woman had gone away, and therefore what I needed to do was replace that part of me as soon as possible, rather than creating my own life that's independent of the woman, and so that in some ways it's kind of like fireproofing yourself, that you can, if you're working on yourself and you're developing yourself in your own interest, and you have all of these things that you like and love, besides being an interesting person and a well-rounded person, you've got this great life, and it's not dependent on anybody but you. And when you make your life dependent, and your happiness and your sense of fulfillment dependent on somebody else, you're always going to run the risk of getting burned because you haven't fireproofed yourself.
Fireproof yourself. Yes.
Fireproof
Sounds like
yourself, man.
Burn, baby, burn.
Burn. Yeah.
Go see the fireman.
Yeah, right?
Let's not go down that way. I can see where this is going, right? I can see all the jokes that are going to come out of this
Here
one.
we go.
All right, so we've got to wrap up for today, but some of the take-home points
Still haven't done mine.
Yeah, you forgot Chuck's number.
Did I screw it up again?
Again, man. I'm starting start to feel a little, yeah. So my number 2 is like the vibe that you're putting out, right? That's right. Like if you're putting out low vibrations, if you're putting out low vibes, you're not going to be attractive. A lot of nice guys sit in fear and apathy and sadness and butthurt, and those are really low vibration points. When you're in a state of being a victim, you're not going to be attractive. Because think about it. If you've ever been with somebody who's in the state of a victim state, do you want to hang out with them? No, you want to get away from that as soon as possible. And so we do have energetic states that are emotional states, and the higher our emotional state, the higher vibration, and the higher vibration, the more the attraction that's going to come our way. And so to be able to stay in a higher vibration of things like peace and love and acceptance and courage and your values, when you're sitting in those places, then you're going to have a lot more attraction because you're putting out this higher vibration. I mean, like you've met people where you walk into a room and you just feel this sense about them, like that they're peaceful, and you want to hang out with them. And we can do the same thing within ourselves, but we have to like consciously bring ourselves up to that higher state. Because if I'm in the lower state, that lower part of just, being apathetic and playing the victim, I am the only person who can get me out of that. This morning I woke up and I was just like, oh, it's Monday. I don't want to do anything. I'm feeling kind of low. I'm feeling a bit just kind of shitty from the previous week. And I sat there in my bed and I'm like, no, fuck this, Chuck. You gotta get up and bring the energy up. You're the only one on the planet that's going to be able to do that for yourself. So get up, took a shower, did some meditation before we got on this call here, doing the things that I needed to do to bring myself up from this lower place of victim into a higher state of peace and love and generosity and kindness and all that. So that's what I would say is if you really want to change your life and the way in your attractiveness, you have to bring that energy level with up inside yourself to that higher state and put off those good vibes.
I love that, Chuck. There's one word for that encompasses everything you just said. Charisma.
Charisma. I knew you were going to say
Charisma. That's magnetism.
that. Yeah. Yeah. But charisma is one of those things where you, and I love that you coach on this, because a lot of guys, you feel it with somebody else, but how do you get that? Right. And the way that you get that is you practice staying in a higher vibrational state.
Maybe that should be our next podcast. Maybe one of our podcasts should be how to, cultivate and grow and, have that clean aura, the magnetism and the vibration as well. So there we go. We've got another good topic at some point.
There we go. Yeah.
I like it too, because it can sound woo woo to people.
Yeah.
But there really is something important there. And it's important that we cultivate this in ourselves. But it's not just a formula that nice guys can follow in a book. It's practices.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does sound kind of woo-woo, sort of law of attraction and that kind of thing. But there's some validity to all of that as well, is that, you're going to attract into your life the things that you put out there. So if you're, sitting around watching TV and eating Cheetos and you're in this state of apathy, it's not like some beautiful woman's going to all of a sudden, knock on your door and want to come in and have this amazing relationship with you. You have to put out there what you want back. So that's the advice I would give my younger self, is bring in some chill vibes.
Chuck, do you feel better now that, you got the points and Ari's now not going to ignore you anymore?
And that's just a bonus tip. Stand up for yourself.
Yeah, too right.
And I'm not saying I did this by any, it was on purpose, but like it's really easy for guys, especially nice guys, like, oh, you didn't tell me. We'll just pretend like, just be like, hey, I'm here.
No, thank you for speaking up, Chuck.
I never.
And because I was dealing with another nice guy issue when I realized I had done that. I was feeling ashamed, especially this was my first time leading, so I had to just calm myself and remember, like, I haven't done anything horrible. I wasn't trying to do this. I was doing my best. So we were both going through something at the same time.
And that's the beautiful thing about being in groups with guys, and to be vulnerable and to be honest and to just because then, there's just this love that kind of comes out of it. Right. So I'm not feeling, just to clear things up, I'm not feeling any sort of resentment towards you. And, nor am I feeling like, you screwed this up or anything like that. But those are the kind of the messages that we start to tell ourselves, and we start to perceive that. And when we do that, guess what happens? We go into that lower vibration state.
Thank you so much for saying that. I mean, this is the beauty of men's work, men's groups. Yeah. The three of us already have relationships that we've been building for a while. And that's why we can have these conversations and process stuff all in real time.
In real time.
For your enjoyment, the listener.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to wrap up today's show, unless I forgot somebody else. Faisal, did you get yours? Okay.
That was beautiful.
All right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on the latest episodes of the Nice Guy Show. Join us for our next exciting episode next week, where we'll share more of the Nice Guy's secrets. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show. the podcast that helps nice guys move past their insecurities and fears into the fullness of their masculine strength and confidence. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast and check out the website niceguyshow.com for more information on how to connect with Chuck and Faisal. Until next time, keep living your best life.